Hello, everyone. My name is Carl, and today I'll be talking about The World Ends With You Final Remix. It was developed by Square Enix and Jupiter, and it was published by Nintendo for the Switch as a port or remaster, whatever you want to call it, of the original Nintendo DS game. It came out on October 12th, 2018. Will run you $49.99 and was rated T for teen for fantasy violence, mild language, and mild suggestive themes. It's the first game in an original series, and a sequel has since been released. It follows Neku Sakuraba, an antisocial amnesiac who wakes up in the middle of Shibuya, Tokyo, has no idea how he got there, but he finds out that he's part of this life and death game where he has to follow the instructions given to him within a time limit or face erasure. Um, Going into this game, I had heard of it. I thought it was interesting. Like, I'm a fan of Square Enix and what they do. But I didn't really want to go out and buy it. However, my sister said her friend had purchased it, but due to a disability, she couldn't play it properly. So I bought it off her for, full price, and I gave it a try. So the gameplay consists of you, Neku, roaming around the overworld, top-down, walk-around game, talking to people, fulfilling objectives, and if you run into noise, which is like a monster, um, then you have to, like, you get transported over to, like, a fight section, and you have to fight. This game's kind of interesting because, the original DS game, of course, the two gimmicks of the dual screen, there's a top screen and a bottom screen, and the bottom one's a touch screen. Neku was on the bottom that you can control with the touch screen, and his partner, who he has, a different one, but he has a partner for the entirety of the game, was controlled like by a CPU, I think, on the top screen. Um, so what you do is you equip pins that allow you to access your psychic power, and you can do different things to attack with those pins. And in the Switch version, um, you don't have the dual screen top and bottom. You just have Neku on the main screen, and you can summon his partner to help out if you do certain actions. So, like, obviously they had to change things around there. How you attack with the pins is a pin might say swipe downwards to do a bolt of lightning, or swipe across Neku to make him fire a bolt of energy in that direction, etc. However, the Switch isn't the DS. There's only one screen, and there's no touchscreen when you're in TV mode. So you can use the touchscreen to play in handheld, but I played a lot on TV mode. And the cool thing of how they adapted it to TV mode is the Joy-Con um, uses its gyro sensors to point to, like, to navigate a pointer on the screen. And I believe you press the A button when you want to use a psychic power, and you press the B button to move Neku around. So it's pretty cool how they managed to, like, do that and make it work on the Switch, even though, like, the Switch doesn't necessarily have to have a touchscreen. Um, I preferred actually playing it on the TV because when you're on, like, handheld mode and you're using your touchscreen, your, like, hand gets in the way. On the DS, you have a stylus, which is like a thin thing, where you can use it to point wherever. But, like, your finger and your hand kind of gets in the way when you're using uh, the touchscreen control. So I actually preferred playing it with the controllers, with the gyro. Surprisingly, I know a lot of people take a crap on gyro, but it works really well, actually. I did use the touchscreen for a mini game that involved you sliding something around, but that's neither here nor there. There are, however, a couple places, like, where I was like, this feels weird. I knew the game was on the DS, but I wasn't sure, like, going into it, like, how they adapted it or, like, how much they changed it. But, like, looking at it, there's one fight where, like, you fight the noise on the bottom, like, on your screen, and then all of a sudden, like, the game kind of pauses and moves up to the top, the rafters of a building, where your partner is fighting, and I'm like, oh, okay, that was kind of like a special thing that they did in the DS version that they couldn't, like, rectify. They couldn't, like, translate as well. And there's also one boss fight where you have two bosses fighting at the same time, and like it's just you can't, like if you fight one of them, they're locked in like hit stun, but then the other one just smacks you and you die. And I looked it up, and indeed in the DS version, one of Neku fought one on the bottom, and your partner fought one on the top. So this was like insanely more difficult than everything else around it. I had to temporarily lower the difficulty in order to clear it. But for the most part, it's not noticeable. And I'm really glad like it's not, because I'm glad it just does a good job. Um, all in all, I really appreciated how like they managed to adapt this to the Switch, and how creative it is. Like just drawing things on the touchscreen for the DS version or in the air with the Switch version. Like I really enjoyed how it differentiated that, because usually it's like with a game you need to like press a bunch of different buttons to switch between weapons, or it's hard because like you have to, in Monster Hunter say, you have to hold down a button and then scroll through a bunch of different items to try to find the one that you want. But in this game, you literally, like, there's a pins in the upper left corner, and if you want to use one that heals, you just tap it. But if you want to use your other ones, they all have like, oh, in order to use, swipe down in the air, or tap somewhere on the screen, or scratch a bunch in one place on the screen. Like really clever stuff. It's nice to see something new. Other gameplay parts of it, you could also, for combat, equip clothes that alter your stats, and there was something they explained to me about like eating food that like temporarily all altered your stats. And I don't know, I didn't really experiment with that. I To be honest, I don't really remember what all the stats were and what they did. I just kind of threw on like, oh, this is stronger, that should probably work, and then I rolled with it, and I beat the game. So as for the like going from place to place and exploring, like that part of the game, it apparently uses like real life locations from Shibuya, the Shibuya district of Tokyo. They just swap out like brand name buildings. I think there's like the 109 building in real life, but in this one's like the 104 building, that sort of thing. Instead of Starbucks, it's like Outback Cafe or something. Like they changed the names, but the general layout is the same. And it'd be cool, I think, to go to Tokyo and see, oh, that's where this is, and that's where that is. However, like the map itself was a little confusing. I remember like getting an objective that's like, oh, go here, and I'm like, where is that again? Like it's the typical like section, and then you go like to a loading zone, and then you go to a next area of the map. But I just could not keep straight like where everything was. So yeah. In any case, on to the story. Like I said, it follows Neku, this main orange-haired guy here. Lovely color for hair. Um, so he wakes up, of course. He has no memory of who he is. He's like got his name. He has a severe lack of trust in people, and he just wakes up in the middle of this like giant scramble crossing, it's called, in the middle of Shibuya, and no one around him is noticing him or talking to him. He can't get anyone's attention. He has no idea like why this is, who he is, but he finds a cell phone in his pocket, and it's giving him instructions to say, hey, find a partner and complete this task within a time limit, or else face erasure. And there's a countdown timer appears like kind of tattooed on his right hand, and it's changing and it's counting down, um, like the time before the end of the task. And so he's like, okay, obviously if they can do this to me, they mean business. So I have to find a partner, whether I like it or not, and complete the missions. And the reason he has to find a partner is because Noise, which is like the main like monster antagonist enemies of the game, can only be destroyed by two psychic users working together. I think in the DS version there was some like explanation where they simultaneously exist in two parallel universes or something. So one person has to kill him on the top screen universe, and one person has to kill him on the bottom screen universe. But obviously, only one screen. So The explanation is that like they can only be destroyed by two people that enter a pact. So he finds this one girl named Shiki as his partner, and he like goes to finish the mission. And he quickly finds out, okay, you finish one mission one day, you black out, and then you immediately wake up and you receive your next instructions. And if you complete all 7 days, you win. Presumably, you don't die. But this is like very much a storyline that opens up as it goes. Like it's not just obviously, you know, Neku plays the game, he wins the game, and then he leaves. Like obviously, you're gonna dig down into like the basics of the game itself. Um, but there are a few like general story themes and story beats to go along with. I don't want to get too deep into what the story is exactly because, like I said, it does open up. You know, as the game progresses, your objective changes, and I don't want to spoil anything. Basically, so in order, one of the themes is like because Neku needs a partner to fight noise, he has to trust someone. He has to team up with someone, whether he likes it or not. So he kind of like has to learn to accept other people and the fact that he can't do everything on his own. And of course, there's like the boatload of questions that come with um, like the fact that he wakes up in the middle of nowhere. Like, what is this game? How did he get there? What happened to his memories? Why can't he see anyone? Or why can't, excuse me, why can't anyone see him? Who's pulling the strings and orchestrating this game? Why would they do that? What's their motivation? All that good stuff, you know. And along the, you know, there's also the things of like, okay, who can he trust? Who can't he trust? Can he really trust anyone? Like, who's looking out for who, you know? And overall, I think the story does do a good job of like peeling away the layers and slowly revealing like what's actually going on, and like your objective changes a bit as you learn more and more. Um, Obviously, you're going to be digging into like what's the deal with this game? You know, game really? It's life or death. I had a fun time seeing all the little plot details slowly be unraveled and come to fruition. There were a lot of twists and turns, especially when it comes to who's like who's the head honcho, right? Because obviously you want to find that guy and end the game for good, that sort of thing. But there were a few plot threads um, that weren't like were kind of dropped altogether. I mean, Neku learning to trust people. I don't really remember like quickly like he learns to trust people. I learned he like too quickly. I feel like is okay with trusting people if memory serves. Like it wasn't what you'd expect to be a nice slow like, oh, you know, he gets to know this person and then maybe like trust him a little bit and then it pays off, blah 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 blah. Maybe he gets his trust betrayed and then it like he reverts it back, you know, that sort of thing. And there's also one thing that kind of baffles me with the story. This is a non spoiler. I'm not going to tell you what happens, but rather that something doesn't happen. So obviously you think Neku's memory is gone because like or not either because or for plot reasons because um he knows something about the game and he can and that's crucial. But like pretty early on in the game he gets his memory back and literally none of his memories have anything to do with the game. So it's like why bother? You know, like why would you have him have amnesia if recovering that amnesia doesn't do anything for him. So it seems kind of like a cheap reason to be like, oh my god, more mystery. He's got amnesia. But yeah. Anyway, some of the story was hidden away through like little Easter eggs and little clues around the map that you could like find and buy. Or I think it was like if you beat certain enemies in certain ways, you can find them. But I didn't really care to go hunt them down. And also, full disclaimer, there was a post game apparently that I completely missed. So oops. Anyway, on to the graphics and art style. There is really is like a unique 2D art style. It's not like a Zelda game where like the promotional images look very different from like in game. All of it is like 2D sprites in this like comic book style. It really does have this like comic book feel to it, because not only do you have these like, bold lined character models, but all of the animations are like these 2D sprites as well. And the animations, for example, like a projectile is like just two, like a fireball is just two pictures, like two frames swapping back and forth, and that's it. People talking to each other have like speech bubbles coming out, very much like a comic book, and I like that kind of distinctive style. The background images are also very like comic booky. However, they did this weird distortion effect with the background. Like, if you're not near something, things will like warp or like bend outwards or inwards and stuff. It was kind of off-putting. I didn't really like that. But other than that, I appreciate how different this is. I always appreciate an art style with a vision, if you will. So, music. Music is also very, very distinctive. There's like it's like this hip hop and rap like soundtrack, including vocals. I'm pretty sure every, if not almost all the tracks in this game that play through the major parts, or the major like background, maybe not during cutscenes, but during battles and when you're just walking around, all have lyrics, which is something you really don't see in video games. If you do see a song with lyrics, it's usually like exclusively for a cutscene to go along with it. Um, but like all the background music in this game is has lyrics, which I think is pretty cool. Um, the songs themselves are fine. Sometimes the lyrics are kind of illegible, and they're all in English, illegible. Um, the lyrics are hard to understand. But I do remember, like, as you near the end game and like things are falling apart, um, it like the music starts warping, and getting kind of like sounding like almost, I don't know, lost souls or sirens or something singing it, which kind of does a good job of like um, emphasizing dread or impending doom. But yeah, DLC. There's no DLC, but the final remix does have a New Day chapter, which I did not play. So, oops. That chapter is exclusive to the this version of the game. I'm not sure if it's canon or not. But on to my conclusion. While the world ends with you, doesn't have the most inspired story for me. Its gameplay, art style, and music are really something else. While I don't think they all land like perfectly, there is a fair amount like where like it feels like they're just being different to try to be different. It's kind of little cringy a bit. But for the most part, it gets away with standing out as its own thing, which I think, like in a day and age where games have never been more mainstream, and like more and more people are trying to like copy the success of other games, it's really nice to see a game that looks and feels as different as this one does. So it was really refreshing, and I think I'll settle on an 8 for this one. Honestly, an 8. I really like how different it was. It might be a high 7, but yeah, I'll give it an 8. I would recommend it if you are looking for something different, or something a little out there, or maybe nice little mystery suspense type of deal. I'd recommend it. It's a lovely little game. I'm kind of sad that I didn't play the final day and whatnot. But yeah, in any case, let me know what you thought. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, am I full of crap? Am I on the money? Let me know in the comments down below, because I read all my comments. But in any case, stay safe out there, folks, and have a good one. Bye.